Calling the meeting to order at 5:31. Before we get started, I've written up a standard meeting blurb so that everybody's on the same page. And that goes like this. Meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the body, so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are: at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair or to the Select Board as a whole, and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. And I believe we've disabled it, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's good.
All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. And a reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. So, with that out of the way, the next order of business is adjustments to the agenda. Do we have any adjustments?
I have none.
All right. So the next thing is the approval of the minutes from March 9th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 9th, 2022. I do have a correction to
Okay. Do you second?
I'll second that.
What's the correction?
So in 3 approval of minutes, it's Josh Laughlin made a motion to approve and execute warrants. And then it does that twice. So those just need to be, those are approval of minutes for those dates, not.
Right.
Oh, whoops. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And other than that, they look great.
Okay. Eric, do you have any changes? Okay. Any other discussion on the minutes? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is warrants to the treasurer.
I'll make a motion to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review.
Second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review. Karen, can we review them?
Sure.
Are they in our packet?
Do you have them?
Yes.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do, anyway.
So Eileen, in that folder is the original that's gonna be signed too, so. Oh, and you know something, your original packet that you got this afternoon?
Yeah.
Didn't have them in there yet.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm working off of.
Right. Yes, I think so.
All right.
All right, so payroll warrant dated March 25th, 2022 in the amount of $21,773.38.
These are mostly fire department folks, is that right?
Yes, they've been getting a lot of training.
Yeah.
So, and some overtime with the highway department. We're kind of hoping that's done, but we always seem to get that last storm.
Okay.
And then we have accounts payable warrant dated March 12th through March 25th, 2022 in the amount of $49,430.36, which is a nice small warrant. This is good.
R.C. Brayshaw and Company?
They printed our town reports.
Oh, good. Richard Winter, taxpayer? No,
Richard Winter.
right after R.C. Brayshaw.
Yeah, I see that. I don't know. I don't believe there were any if I can see which. Wyndham County Sheriff's Office. We had an invoice due, but they actually owe us some hours. So we ended up getting a full month credit. So I'm following that through the end of June, and I'll keep you posted. I'm not quite sure where that one is, Josh. Hang on a minute. And I don't know why it says Winter, but Richard Winter. Repairs and maintenance, outside storage box. So obviously that is a vendor. But I don't know if it was for the library or, hold on a minute, I can tell you that. So it was a library repair. So.
And just, it's a pretty big one to WW, just curious, what was that related to?
That is the culvert for Cemetery Road.
Okay, good,
Okay.
thank you.
Yep. And Richard Winter was the man that fixed the door at the library.
Okay.
The window pane was shattered. He had to do some extra work over there for the door.
Any other questions, any discussion on the warrants? So all in favor?
Aye.
All right, next is public comment on items not on the agenda, and before we get comments from the actual public, I just wanted to acknowledge a thank you card that we got from Laura Campbell. The fire department got from Laura Campbell with a donation to the fire department for excellent service.
Yes, true, spectacular.
All right, is there any members of the public? Swift?
Is there anyone online who can go first?
I don't see anybody.
Hold on a minute, because we were supposed to.
We do have time allocated for.
Yes.
This is an app.
Okay.
Yes, so the Vermont Council on Rural Development. So we do have a guest, and the executive director is here too to speak.
Okay,
So
that's on the agenda though.
They're on Zoom.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But is everybody in the meetings, nobody's in the waiting room or anything, right?
Not that I can tell.
All right, so Swift, you're up.
Yeah, I hope that I can be heard. I want to keep my mask on. I wanted to bring to the board the curiosity of how we want to address the way that this conversation with Wyndham and Windsor is getting really divisive, and I'm in response to some of the articles that have been published, or opinion pieces that have been published. It's getting to a head, and what I'm hearing reflected, at least on Facebook and in conversations, is that I think there might be some harm going on of existing Putney residents in Wyndham and Windsor housing. Just the things that are being said are landing in ways that might be causing harm, and some people have actually voiced the like, ouch, of the way the conversation is heading. And I'm curious on how we as a town and how you as a select board can respond to that, and what we want to offer to those residents.
Well, I'd say that, we don't have much control over what people say on social media.
Of course.
In fact, zero.
Yeah.
Zero.
Maybe less than zero.
Right, I agree that the conversation has gotten unconstructive on those platforms. I don't know where we as a town really fit into this process, because the permit has been approved through the DRB. The select board has very little oversight over it. The next process, if they do choose to appeal, is through Vermont Environmental Court.
Correct.
As far as that's another legal process. I guess that's all I have to say on the subject. Is anybody else from the board?
Yeah, I mean, discussion in the public arena is not our purview. And I'm not saying that to avoid having, I haven't been following it. I will clarify again for the record that I am a partial owner of that property. So I have stayed out of conversations largely because it potentially poses a conflict of interest. But I will feel comfortable commenting on people's willingness to make public statements that are either founded or unfounded, and the inappropriateness particularly of making statements that are unfounded. And even if somebody feels they're founded, they are potentially slanderous and or libelous, and people should be very cautious about how they make public statements, because I think I think people may not realize the liabilities they're posing to themselves and the harm that they're potentially doing to others by making those statements. And that I guess I, as a select board member, without having had this discussion with others, would just say, let's be civil, folks, come on. You know, we all live together in a community, and let's try and have meaningful conversation without bashing and potentially posing liabilities to everybody involved.
Here, here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's really important. I think that's what I was hoping for, and I know that you don't have purview over public conversations, but even just this call of asking for kindness and asking for us to not be mean to one another, and witnessing how our words have impact, and how that our words are attached, our statements are attached to people in this conversation, and really just how much we can exude kindness and clarity and be aware of how our words can sometimes fall. I haven't talked about this with the equity committee, and we might bring it up at our next meeting, but I don't know if there's an action to take, but this piece of, I appreciate you asking for kindness as our leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Swift. That was really well said. Is there any other public comment on the agenda?
Can I just make
Yeah.
one more comment? Having sat on Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, which is a statewide board which works with affordable housing and conservation issues, affordable housing is a controversial issue, and it's really unfortunate that it's as controversial as it is, because it is such a necessary part of life in Vermont and life in small towns everywhere. And I think there's often a temptation to say, well, but how come it has to be here? Or why do we need to do this? The reality is that every town in Vermont holds a responsibility to work to provide affordable housing for its community. And I think that often there are conversations related to where people come from that live in affordable housing and how they end up in that housing versus local people who might, and there's a lot of stigma attached to it and a lot of complicated conversations that arise from it. And that's not unique to us, but again, just the need to be civil in those conversations is super important. But it's a lightning rod issue, unfortunately, and I wish it wasn't, but it is.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay. Is there any other public comment on items not on the agenda? On Zoom, I don't see anybody with their hands up. In the room? Okay, hearing none, let's move on. Town manager's report.
It's short this week. So my first item is to mention the potential appeal on the zoning permit for Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust. So it appears an appeal has been filed. We have not received official notification from environmental court, but I will keep you up to date on that. I will be inquiring with legal counsel once we have that, and we'll see what happens.
Laura?
I believe I'm the only person that's filed a notice of appeal with the Environmental Division of Vermont Superior Court. And today I did receive, and I've done that as an individual, a docket number, and the case does have a name. The docket number is 22 ENV 00033. And it's just called Wyndham and Windsor Permit Appeal. That's very initial step. I just thought that might be useful to you if you're calling to find out more.
No, I won't be calling until we get notification.
Okay, I beg your
So
pardon.
my experience, I've been through this once and it was dropped. So we retained an attorney. The applicant had an attorney. The appellants had attorneys. So all the attorneys worked together. And the applicant, or actually the owner of the house, actually sold the house, and the new owners did not want to continue in environmental court,
Oh, okay.
so it was dropped. But from my experience, there will be legal counsel on all sides.
Okay.
So, and
And do we know is there any time frame that you know of?
no.
Okay.
No. From my experience with the one,
Mm.
our town council provided me with a binder, had to have been 8 inches thick. And he and I were going back and forth. And I had to provide a lot of information.
Mhm.
And the town paid for that cost. And we did not recoup it. So, so I'm just
I
letting
think-
you know. And
I think
And, yeah.
we don't, until we receive the official document
Right.
from the court, we don't even know the nature of the complaint, the nature
Right.
of the appeal,
I was
et
just
cetera.
wondering
So-
whether,
Right.
in that scenario, whether there was you got an understanding of the timeline or anything like that, but
No.
I don't
Excuse me,
understand.
Eileen, I'm having a little trouble hearing
What did you say?
you. I'm asking you, what did you just say? Because I'm having a little trouble hearing you clearly.
Is anybody else having trouble hearing me? Okay. I was just asking Karen some questions about her experience with the process before.
Which interests me too.
My sense of that, having been through it a small handful of times, is that it's very dependent on the court schedule.
That makes sense.
And that they get to things in as timely a fashion as they can. But what determines that is beyond anybody's control,
Sure.
I think, so.
And my understanding too is, so it'd be like a de novo case, which we provide information back and forth, and then environmental court makes a decision.
As to whether it will
Yes.
see it,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then once the environmental court makes a decision, if the appellants are still not satisfied, they can go to civil court with it. So, again, I have not been through the whole process. But we'll see what environmental court says until I get the official notification.
Yeah, you don't know. Okay.
Highway department, they were out early this morning up on Banning Road and Putney Road. They've been riding the roads, checking everything. So things are in better shape today.
Certainly, my drive to work today was better than it has been for a few days.
Yeah.
They were in front of my house before 7 this morning.
I was gonna say, right up
Right.
on Windmill Hill Road, there's been a super soft spot, which has now been filled with a bunch of
That's good.
material, so.
So they're out checking everything and doing the best they can, so thank you. FEMA River Road storm damage was submitted already. Tom Goddard and I are meeting tomorrow with Jessica. Tom and Brian have pulled together all of the road damage at this point.
Jessica's the FEMA rep.
This is
Jessica
for the storm in July.
Roderick,
June.
yep.
Yeah.
She's the FEMA representative. So we'll meet with her tomorrow. It's probably gonna be a long day because we're going over 3 different major projects. All the roads are combined. I'll have to pull everything for her, but it looks like we could probably have everything submitted by Monday next week.
And any idea of the timeline after that? No, same thing.
No, I
Yeah.
spoke to Jessica last week. And River Road has been submitted, but it still hadn't even been reviewed yet.
Right.
So, and there'll be some things that they're gonna want, and, we go back and forth for a bit, but, I'm being optimistic that, by the end of this fiscal year, maybe we'll see that money come back,
That'd be good.
so. I started tax sale process. Right now, on my list, there's $90,980.94. The first initial notice went out. So my hope is that, people are gonna call me, and we'll work something out. There are 2 properties, well, one is almost $20,000 in arrears. Now, these are properties too that are 2 years. Our policy states 1.
Can be 2 years. Our practice has been 2.
I've been doing 2.
Right.
Only because it gives them an opportunity to, square up.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, some of them may have like a $1,500 balance from 2 years ago. And if they pay that, and then they're down 1 year, and that, to me,
Resets the clock.
and it's good faith effort, on their part. And again, we don't want to be in the real estate business. So those people that have payment agreements, they've been good, about paying it. And then there is that program, Vermont Homeowners. I also gave them that link and phone number to call because they might be eligible for financial assistance because of COVID. But that's something they're gonna have to do on their own. And that money, if they're eligible, will come directly to the town. So,
Yeah. And I believe you put that link on the website,
yes.
so it's available online.
Yep.
And if
It's on
somebody
Facebook.
needs help figuring out how to approach that, we could probably at least advise them. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get John Johnson to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gone. I missed my opportunity. But that's all I had.
Okay. There he's back.
Oh,
See?
he's back.
Throw me under the bus?
Trying to give you assignments.
I've given you more work.
Did you get the names of the Zoom folks by any chance?
I don't have that.
Okay, so moving on, the next thing we're discussing is the Vermont Council on Rural Development, and we have some guests online. We have Jenna. Is that you?
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. And it's just me tonight. Our executive director, Brian, is at home with a sick kiddo, unfortunately. So you've just got me.
Okay.
Okay.
But Karen, I don't know if you want to do any sort of preamble or should I just launch into it?
Well, I gave the information to the board 2 weeks ago, and we talked a little bit about it. And so if you want to just go ahead right into it, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll just give a quick overview because I want to leave time in case there are questions, and then I'm sure no pressure to come to any decisions in this meeting or with me online. So I'll sign off and let you all discuss when it makes sense. But really quick overview. So I work for the Vermont Council on Rural Development. And I should say too, like I always prefer to do these kinds of conversations in person. I'm sorry that I can't be there tonight, but would certainly want to come down at some point if we do, decide to work together. So the Council on Rural Development is a neutral convener of community and public process in Vermont. We're an independent nonprofit organization. We were actually established by the federal Farm Bill back in the 90s as a neutral convener, but it doesn't come along with any authority or funding of any kind. But it does allow us to have a unique board structure. So our board, our council, is made up of federal leadership, members of the governor's cabinet. It doesn't matter what party, we're a nonpartisan organization, business leadership, nonprofit leadership, and representatives from all three congressional offices, community leadership, and then all three congressional offices. And the work that we do some facilitation at the kind of the statewide policy level around rural development and the needs of communities in Vermont. But really the core and heart of our work is facilitation at the local level. So we are invited by communities all around the state to facilitate conversations, to bring the full community together, help them to identify priorities for the future, some concrete action items for the future of the town. And then importantly, help connect to technical assistance and funding to make those things a reality. We do this primarily through our community visit process that we offer. And I should say upfront, not here to sell anything. We offer it only where we're useful and where towns fight the process. And it's also a service that we offer free of charge to communities. And we've worked with about 83 communities in the last 20 years all around the state. So from, small Northeast Kingdom towns to, several communities recently in Southern Vermont area, and even in kind of larger communities, Barrie, Milton. We've kind of done been across the whole map in the state of Vermont. The reason I ended up in touch with Karen, one interesting pattern. So for the last several years, we've done several visits down in that area. We worked with Vernon, Guilford, Vernon, Londonderry not too long ago. But recently, a lot of our requests have been becoming more from the northern part of the state. We've worked with several Kingdom communities and Northwest communities recently. So actually, our board was asking us, have we heard from any Southern Vermont communities recently? So usually we do have like a wait list of communities that want this process. But I reached out to Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, our partners there, and asked for their suggestions of any communities that might be interested, and ended up eventually connected to Karen because some folks thought it may be a process that Putney's interested in. So want to come to you to know whether that, sounds like it might be a useful thing. So really quick run through of the process. The community visit process is all about local community voice and leadership. We don't come to communities with any sort of agenda for what we think should be done in a town. The process is about bringing together voices from all different parts of the community and saying, what's working? What are the challenges today? But most importantly, what are your ideas for the future of your community? It is not the intention of the process to build like a to-do list for the select board or planning commission or town manager. It's really to say, what do you as community members want to take on for the future of the town? The first step in the process is a steering committee meeting, a planning meeting of representatives from all over the community, school, municipal leadership, lower income members of the community, community groups and organizations, farmers, teachers, whatever makes up that unique community. We bring together about 20 representatives, and they help us to frame the process. Like, what are the issues that are important right now? They help us design the outreach and invitation process. We kind of bring the capacity to do that outreach, but we need to learn the avenues in that particular town. The first month of kind of the first public meeting happens a month later. That is kind of, you can think of like a summit on the future of your town. There is a community dinner, but it's also business. Like we facilitate several forums where we ask assets, challenges, and opportunities for action within those topics that the steering committee has chosen. And that's really a brainstorming forum. We also do surveys. We do a youth forum with high school students. We'll go to, different members of the community to ask for input, folks that may not, come out to a community forum. And we just gather ideas. At that meeting, we also invite a visiting team. We look at the topics that the community's chosen, and we have a visiting team join us of kind of top visionary, state experts and leaders. If economic development is a topic the town wants to discuss, we'll bring, the secretary of the Agency of Commerce, and we'll bring, leadership from USDA rural development, and, whatever the topics are, we try and bring leadership, and they're not there to tell the community what to do. They're there to listen and be a resource. And share some reflections, but mostly to hear, what's going on in the community, and hopefully, eventually, be able to plug in to support the work that goes forward. So that's the first kickoff day. We then take all those ideas, compile them together, bring them back a month later, and that's the decision-making event. That's where the community reviews the ideas together and has a conversation to really champion what they think is most important. So it's not like a debate. It's really more people standing up and saying, here's what I think is most important for the future of Putney. And then they vote. We go through a voting process and usually end up with anywhere from 2 to 5, depends on, what the community wants to take on, 2 to 5 action priorities. And then we ask community members to sign up for task forces to work on those things. The final meeting is all about action planning. It essentially serves as a first meeting of each of those task forces. We facilitate each task force to identify an action plan, and then also, again, bring a team. This time, not so much visionary leaders. This time we bring a team of who are the people with money that they could bring to, a community center or, downtown redevelopment or whatever the topic, the priority is that's been chosen. We bring people who could bring funding, technical support, but also sometimes community leaders in other towns who've been successful in that work to share what they have found worked. And then we work with the team to build a list of resources that are available to them. We then wrap up the process. We issue, and I see maybe you have some example reports there, but we issue a final report and action plan for the community that details all of the notes, all of the ideas that came up in the process, the action plans, contact information for all those visiting team members. And then kind of in follow-up to the process, we do at that point kind of step back and really rely on the community leaders that are identified to lead these task forces, kind of step back to allow the community to take the lead, but we're here to support the work going forward. So I actually have a full-time staffer on my team who really, who's there for technical assistance and support and follow-up with these task forces. She used to be the economic development director up here in Waterbury, and is really skilled at finding the resources, grant writing, kind of brainstorming next steps, that kind of thing. So she can kind of help and follow up with these task forces as they get started with the work. And then we essentially serve as a resource and referral agency, try and make connections to resources and folks that can help where possible. So that's a really quick, sorry, a lot of information all at once, rundown of the process, but happy to answer any questions that you might have about it.
Does anyone have any questions?
What's the process for us to proceed if we want to?
Great question. So like I said, we only work where a town, thinks it would be useful and where the select board invites the process. It's fairly informal in terms of an application. We just look for a letter from the select board that says, Putney would be interested in a community visit process. Normally, it's actually kind of nice. Normally, when I have these conversations, I'm saying, we have a long wait list of communities. We're kind of booked out through the the next couple of years. But like I said, we have an advisory committee of our board. It's community partners like Preservation Trust, Department of Housing and Community Development, kind of close partners of ours. They make decisions on where we work next. Max Muse, or John Michael Muse from USDA Rural Development, who works down in that area, is on that board. And they have expressed interest in Putney, just hearing the conversation I had with Karen, and they're very interested in offering a process to a Southern Vermont community before we go back up to the northwestern part of the state. So luckily, I can kind of say that we probably would be able to offer a process at least within the year. But the first step would be a letter of request, and we would bring that to that advisory committee. And then ultimately our board would make a final decision, probably at their meeting in June, I would say.
I do know that the planning commission actually voted in their meeting to move it forward to the select board, which I forgot to mention in the last meeting.
Okay.
Too many meetings. But they think it's a good idea, and I think it could work in parallel with creating the town plan.
And
And ARPA, that's
And
the other
ARPA,
thing. I'm interested in whether you can kind of, you may be premature for this, but on the sort of connection between ARPA and this process, if there has been one identified yet.
Yeah, it's a great question. And we've certainly heard from a lot of communities that are interested in some kind of community facilitation around their ARPA spending. Communities are thinking about that in all kinds of different ways. We are actually working so right now we're up in Highgate and Brownington. And then for the summer, we'll be working in Concord, up in the Northeast Kingdom. And Concord actually came to us initially because they were interested in a process like this to help them identify, areas where they could focus their ARPA spending. I will say, the conversation with Concord, we've kind of worked through, I think they see this process as really advising their spending, but not deciding it. As soon as you bring money into community conversations, it can shift the conversation a little bit. And I think it's a wise decision they've made, that they're going to go through this process with a kind of open, as we would typically run it, completely open. What does the community want to see? But then the planning and development board, who in that town has been tasked with the ARPA spending recommendations, they're going to use that input to help to inform the decisions that they'll make, just to see kind of where is the community interest, and maybe some of the priorities that emerge will be the right thing for that spending. That would be great if there was alignment there. But they'll also get, we come out of that first step in the process with like 30 pages of notes from community members, just reflecting on the things they would like to see in town. So my hope is that can be useful to them in that decision making. And then I'll just similarly, you mentioned the town plan, and I get that question a lot, like, how does this align with a town plan? And as you can kind of tell, like, this is different from a town plan. The town plan is critical and is a major conversation, kind of setting, outlining the town's goals and trajectory. Whereas this process, it does kind of narrow down to like, what are the steps we're taking today? What are the 3 things that we're going to put into action? And so a little different is the outcomes, but I think often can work closely with the town plan. I know some towns in the past have just taken some of the public input through the process and integrated that into their town planning process. And oftentimes those outcomes that emerge can help to move on aspects of the town plan. So usually I think communities find some good synergy there as well. And maybe I should say one thing before I forget. So I mentioned costs of participating in the process. I mentioned, this process does cost us about like $45,000 to pull off, and we do not charge the community for that. We have a mix of funding, some federal, a tiny bit of state, and then we have, foundations, donors, members, that kind of thing. But we asked the community for two things in terms of kind of commitment and buy-in with the process. One is when we do our invitation process, we're very thorough in all the ways that we invite the community. We want everyone to hear it hear it like 5 or 10 times. But one thing we asked the town to do is to be in charge of a mailing out to residents, inviting them to attend. We can design it, but we asked them to cover the costs of that mailing. And then we also asked the town to take the lead, at least to support financially the community dinner at the kickoff event. Those are the two things that we look for. And that takes all kinds of different forms depending on the community. And it doesn't necessarily need to be organized by the town or select board, but we do ask for that financial support for the dinner.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I'm just,
Hold on. I meant from the select board.
Oh.
Okay.
big.
Is there any public comment?
I'm just curious to know where your funding comes from.
Yeah, our funding is a mix. We're funded like many small nonprofits in Vermont. The community visit processes, we are supported by a couple of federal grants from Northern Borders Regional Commission and USDA Rural Development. Those are two of our funders. And also the Vermont Community Foundation funds our community visits. But our organization broadly, we have a small set aside of funding from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. And then also we're a member organization. So we have a number of members and donors that we, fundraise for every year. So kind of the typical nonprofit mix, I would say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments from the public?
Who do we sign?
I guess you're in favor. Okay, so I think we are actually looking for a motion.
It would
Right.
be nice.
So
Yes.
We have
I don't think we have a letter, but I think we would.
we don't have her.
We don't have a
So the
letter.
motion would be, I'd make a motion to approve town manager Karen Astley to draft a letter for a request for
Engagement.
this process or engagement.
Second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to, I didn't write that down, to ask Karen to invite Vermont Council on Rural Development to Putney for their process. Is that a
Close
fair
enough.
rendition? Okay. Is there any other discussion or questions on this? Anyone from the public?
Just the excitement and curiosity of what it could bring to Putney. It sounds like a great project and really supported by their history of what they've done in other towns, and I think it'd be great with where we're evaluating our town plan. I'm excited.
And you're in favor, Karen?
Yes, I am. Important.
All right. Well, if there is no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate it and excited to hear it. And I'll wait for a letter, and then I'll be in touch with Karen about next steps in terms of bringing it to our board and timing.
Thank you, Jenna.
Great.
Great.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
everyone. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Equity and Inclusion Advisory Committee public statement, which is Swift.
I just want to stand so you can hear me. So, March is Women's History Month, and again, with February, we were late, and we're going to try and have these be earlier in the month, but lots moving on in all of our lives. So we wanted this, I'm speaking from the Equity and Inclusion Committee. This statement was written by myself and Tress, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I'm sorry. I'm the co-chair and she's one of our members. And so I just wanted to read the statement. So Women's History Month 2022 recognizes women as healers. As the pandemic goes into its third year, the theme for this month, promoting healing, promoting hope, reminds us of women's importance and tireless commitment to health and wellness of their communities. Among our friends, neighbors, families, and coworkers, women are quietly and sometimes not so quietly assisting healing, mending harm, easing suffering, promoting peace, and working towards a more helpful future, sometimes at their own expense. History shows women have been doing this across cultures since the beginning of time as medicine women, midwives, herbalists, nurses, clerics, counselors, doctors, mothers and grandmothers, and now as frontline workers. As we nurture younger generations in our communities in a progressively complicated world, women's work as healers and hope makers is needed now more than ever. I would like to take this time to highlight a woman in our community who has dedicated herself to promoting the health and wellness of others. We wish to honor Hannah Pick, the Executive Director of the Food Shelf since 2018.
Yay!
For you. And chocolate. Oh, perfect. Yeah, so Hannah Pick, the Food Shelf, directly supports the health and welfare of our community through access to nutritious foods at both the Food Shelf and at our school program, Food for Kids. Hannah's work has directly impacted approximately 17,000 visitors since the beginning of the pandemic. She promotes healing through her food as medicine approach and provides hope on an ongoing basis to those in need. Having the Food Shelf right downtown offers a hub of connection and sustenance. It brings volunteers, neighbors, and the whole of Putney together, even at these times when we have felt so isolated. Thank you, Hannah, and your team for all the ways your work has brought healing and hope to our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
so beautifully stated, and I of course have to recognize the team. It's been such a team effort, especially through this pandemic, to pull us just keep the work going. You know, it's been we've met the need. We really have risen to the moment, and it's not me alone. Yeah.
Thank you. Hannah was the first paid person on staff, and really, I do want to acknowledge, took it where it's going. And where it's going, because you can see where it's growing to. So thank you. As you reflect on Women's History Month, we invite you to think back to the women in your life and your ancestry that have held the medicine, healed others, and woven the fabric of possibility for those around them. Let's be grateful for all of them this month. As we spend time reflecting on Women's History Month, we wish to remember the 6 Asian American women who lost their lives a year ago at a Georgia spa. Since the pandemic, an increase in anti-Asian hate crimes, especially towards women, has increased and continues to be of great concern to the Asian community. We join others in breaking the silence and bringing awareness and speaking out against anti-Asian racism. Putney is a welcoming community, and our hearts go out to Asian neighbors and friends as they grieve for the losses of their community members. The Equity and Inclusion Advisory Committee and Town of Putney is committed to keeping a safe and living and inviting environment so that all Asians can thrive here without threat to harm. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Hannah. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work. And your team.
Yes, it's been a team.
Yes.
It's good work.
Do we have any other comments on this? I see, Tris, did you have anything to say? Or
Oh,
just
Tess is here.
watch
Sorry.
it?
I
Just
can't
watch,
see you, Tess.
just watch
Hi.
it from far. Okay.
Can you see her there?
Yeah.
She can't see you though. I know.
All right,
Get
so
another TV.
thank you for that.
I will say one thing. So we are working with Karen on compiling a calendar that has like days of remembrance and special months of honoring different groups. And we are compiling on creating like a list of priorities of that list. It's going to be a short list because there are so many different of these special days, and we want to have that public of like, these are the ones that we do honor. And if the public does have some days or months that they want to make sure are included, please do email me. My email address is on the Equity and Inclusion Committee, Advisory Committee on our tab. It's on there. So please, like if you're like, oh, I want to make sure that this month or that month is highlighted, or this special day, please do let us know. And we do want to make a habit of honoring special days and events like this. And we aren't going to do all of them and make it public of which ones we are doing. So please do share with me as the co-chair and Mark as the other co-chair, and so we can make sure that we're inclusive and the best we can.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so next piece is the select board acting as the sewer commissioners to review a request for increased sewer allocation.
Yes, so in your packet is an application from Kevin Freitas up on V.S.A. Lane. So basically, he's added an apartment unit in the building. So he's going from 4 to 5.
This is the barn part. Yeah.
Whatever he's got up there.
Okay.
I'm not
He's
quite
got the
sure.
barn, the other side is owned by somebody else.
Okay.
Right, yeah, 'cause
They were all signed over, but now he bought the barn.
He bought the barn. Okay.
right. So he's basically already connected. He had 4 units already connected. We're adding in another allocation. So he'll be up to 5. The apartment was done back in December and it's now rented. We bill for services already rendered. So from January through March, we're reading meters right now. He will get a bill for 5 units.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the application for wastewater allocation increase for Kevin Freitas at 5 Phineas White Lane.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the increased sewer allocation for Kevin Freitas at 5 Phineas White Lane. Is there any further discussion? Anyone from the public? Doesn't appear so. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, and the next thing is the select board acting as the liquor commissioners for Putney Consumers Cooperative and PGS Group.
John Johnson is going to present those.
It's liquor license renewal time. We have 5 in Putney, and only 2 so far have submitted their paperwork. Putney General Store, which is the PGS Group, and the co-op to sell beer and wine. The checks are okay. We haven't had any complaints. Mike Costco, who owns the general store, has also presented his trainer certificate that was issued by the Department of Liquor Control and Lottery. So that he's a certified trainer to make sure that they're not selling to underage kids and things.
So that he's a trainer.
He's a trainer,
Oh, that's interesting.
and
Cool.
he's certified by Department of Liquor Control.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the liquor license renewal applications for both the Putney Co-op and the Putney General Store as presented.
I'll second that.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the liquor licenses of the Putney Consumer Cooperative and PGS Group LLC. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to mention too that there are no zoning violations and water and sewer are up to date.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next
If you could put this into your folder,
to
you
sign,
sign the approval line where the yellow is.
all 3 of us?
Yeah.
We'll do that in a second. Or actually, I'll hand it to you. Start it with you. Okay, the next thing is the special election warning for April 26, 2022.
We're required by law to notice the special election by this Sunday, April 27th.
Okay.
So in your board pack was just a standard warning, similar to what we would use at town meeting, saying, hey, we're having this election and this is what we're gonna do.
Okay.
And again, we need you to sign, all 3 of you sign,
Okay.
and it'll be posted in accordance with law before Sunday.
Okay.
No candidates withdrew. Today was the last day
Last
for
day of
candidates
withdrawal, okay.
to withdraw. So we'll
Alright.
send the ballot off tomorrow.
Can you announce those candidates?
Sure. For the 2-year spot, we have Charles Robichuk is running again, and Elizabeth Warner. And then for the 1-year spot, we have 4 candidates. They are Perry Smith-Phillips, Bryce Hodgson, Laura Campbell, and Peg Alden. And then we also need, when Susan Hesse resigned, you appointed Kurt Lynch as the new lister. The lister's checked with the LCT and the state tax department. He needs to run in the next election. So in addition to the 2 select board seats, we're also gonna elect a lister. to serve out the remainder of Susan's 2-year term.
And then you would have to run again
In,
next year?
no, Doug Harlow's up next
Right.
year. He would run in 2024.
Oh, well, at least he doesn't run.
Yeah.
They're constantly running
Right.
Mr.
Yeah.
Okay,
Needs
All right.
another one from you.
okay.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the town of Putney warning for special election by Australian ballot.
Second that.
Do you want me to read it quickly?
Yeah,
Just
that
so
would be
we-
great.
So it reads, the legal voters of the town of Putney are hereby notified polling will take place on Tuesday, April 26th, 2022, to act upon all of the following articles by Australian ballot. Polls will be open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Putney Fire Station, 21 Carl Snyder Drive, Putney, Vermont. Due to the continuing health situation, you are encouraged to vote absentee. You may also vote in person at the town clerk's office during regular office hours. If you do not receive a ballot or if you have any questions, please contact the town clerk. Early voting begins April 6th. The following articles will be voted by Australian ballot to choose all town officers required by law to be elected, which includes, as John said, 2 new select board members and 1 lister. And that's dated this 23rd day of March, Putney, Vermont, Putney Select Board.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
I have one question to John. So you're mailing a postcard to all registered voters?
And let me pass this around.
You're on top of it.
This is oversized. This is the front.
Okay,
It just announces the election. The vendor has our active voter list. So each active voter will get a postcard addressed to them. And this is the back. It just says, this is what's happening. Here's how to vote.
okay.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Short and sweet, looks good to me. Can I see it?
Sure.
We don't have to vote on that, do we?
No,
Just on this, okay.
That's in the vendor's hands. It should mail as early as tomorrow, but more likely first of next week.
Okay, and,
Minuteman Press in Brattleboro is doing it. We solicited 3 bids. They will owe us. They have a bulk mailing permit, so they're handling all of it.
nice.
Good.
Yes.
All right, is there any other further discussion? Members of the public? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And Karen, I'll just collect those signed
This
copies.
is,
All right.
Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Thanks,
Thanks, John.
Sign that, and then stick it in there for us, thank you. Okay, we've got the American Rescue Plan Act resolution adoption.
So yeah, in your packet is, what is it? 2 pages?
Yep.
So Eileen and I have been working together, and VLCT did come up with a template to create an advisory committee under the select board to figure out the American Rescue Plan Act and, you know, basically to educate the select board on the process. And when we have to have a certain amount of money allocated and obligated within a certain amount of time. And we also have to have it spent in a certain amount of time. This is gonna, it needs community engagement, and we cannot do that from this building. So we're gonna need a committee, and this outlines the charges for the committee. It's basically taken right from the VLCT template with a few minor adjustments. So it'll be the same as any committee. You're gonna have a chair, a vice chair, and a clerk. You'll have certain people, like a person from the select board, the town manager as a non-voting participant, and planning commission. But we also need a nonprofit person and another, what was it?
So the business owner, for-profit business owner,
Yes.
nonprofit, and member of the select board and planning commission and town manager, and then the other ones, I assume are from the public.
Right.
Okay.
And this committee right now is a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 7 people. And I have people interested in serving on this committee,
Right.
but their question was, what is our charge? So without a charge, they're not ready to commit.
Okay.
So I think we should put it out if the board adopts this resolution and see what type of interest we'll get, and then the board can decide.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I guess we'll all fight over who's gonna be the select board representative.
See, Eric's excited about that.
Well, here's the thing too, with 2 new members coming on board
Right.
by May 1st, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're already like almost a year behind anyway in this process, and this is why we need to get it going now. So you will have 2 other new board members, and somebody may want to step up. So at this point, I don't think this board needs to commit to a person yet.
No, I would agree.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the American Rescue Act Plan Advisory Committee
Resolution, I should
resolution
say.
as presented.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the American Rescue Plan Act Advisory Committee resolution as presented. Is there further discussion? Any public comment?
I can't remember whether others were CC'd on this. I got an email from Virginia Scholl.
Okay.
Related to, best of my recollection is she's recently appointed to the position of the president of the board of Sandglass.
Okay.
So she might be a nonprofit member who would be potentially willing and able.
Yep, she's in the
She
meeting.
appears to be on the,
Yeah,
So,
and she did come in this week and asked about it,
okay.
and I knew it was gonna be talked about tonight. So, Virginia, if you have any other questions, you can call me tomorrow.
Okay, so is there any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
do you
Thank
have
Need
a
to
copy that's
sign.
not marked draft?
Is there,
There's one in
the
there.
folder, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, we can go.
where are we? I'm sorry. Okay, the Development Review Board resolution adoption. So we had approved this earlier, a couple months ago, I think.
A month ago, probably.
Was it a month? Yeah. And we approved it pending Larry Slason's review. He's now reviewed it, so I think we just want to re-adopt it as revised.
So I'll make a motion that we adopt the revised edition of the Town of Putney Select Board Resolution to reconfigure the Development Review Board.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the revised version of the resolution for the reconfiguring of the Development Review Board. Is there discussion?
I'm comfortable with the amendments that he made. So it does lay out what we were talking about in the meeting, so I don't have any issues with it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see any glaring, I didn't see anything
Yeah.
that would be
No
inconsistent
huge
with what we did
material
before.
difference.
Yeah. So I'm good with it as well. Public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I guess we have to appoint the Development Review Board members under the new charge, right?
That is correct.
So can you read those out for us so we can vote for them as a slate?
Philip Bannister, Mary Heller Osgood, James Switzer, Wayne Wagenbach, Charles Robichuk.
And we have an alternate as well? Do we need to approve that?
We don't have
We don't yet.
alternates.
Yeah.
Unless
Okay.
somebody on the select board can be an alternate. And this is, again,
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. And I will confirm that. I will double check.
Yeah,
But
we don't need to do that right now.
no, but we do need alternates.
It would be good to
because
have
that's part of
alternates.
the problem.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the slate presented for appointment to the Development Review Board as reconstituted.
Second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the slate of Development Review Board members under the revised Development Review Board resolution. Is there any further discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Aye, I don't think I voted. The next piece is the Public Records Policy Review and Discussion. Karen, do you want to run us through this, or do you want me to start?
No, go ahead because
Okay.
I'm,
So, I actually enrolled in the Selectboard Essentials class, which actually is tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
and Eric, you are too.
Yep.
You get a notification, you're all set. Okay, good.
So, there was some required viewing, and one of them was on the Public Records Act. And they recommended that municipalities adopt a public records policy, so that there's a very clear, concise method across all of the offices and boards for when people receive FOIA requests or requests for public information that may or may not need retraction or may not actually be public information. Sometimes hard to suss that out. So, so I brought this forward to Karen's attention and said, maybe we should do this. I think it's a good idea to have at least all the departments on the same page as far as how the Public Records Act applies to them. And I will also mention that
Yeah.
both Brattleboro and Putney received what's called First Amendment audits the other day. So, which is when somebody comes into the office, usually recording on their phone, and they're basically conducting what they call a First Amendment audit, which is how well do the officials in the town building understand
First Amendment.
First Amendment rights.
Right.
So this type of thing, I think, is very important for us to make sure our employees are feeling confident in their ability to provide the right information to the public.
Right.
And I'll just comment that we have had, not in the last several years, but we certainly have had conversations about public records policy, et cetera, and I don't know whether we ever approved a policy before,
I haven't seen one.
but the vast majority of this is statutory anyway.
Yeah.
So, we have always acknowledged that we are required to follow statutory requirements related to release of public records and have followed those statutes. But I think having a policy, if we
I
don't,
agree.
is a good idea.
Especially in the times we're in today.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the different platforms, the electronic platforms, because that all comes into play too.
Right.
I have 14,000 emails. I have to keep them all because I don't know which ones you can't.
Right.
You know,
Can't get
so
rid- yeah.
I do agree because, there's certain situations where if there's a public records request, it can be time consuming too.
Yes.
And draining on a small staff. So, and this will cover all the departments, like you said, and boards and commissions.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So So,
we have, this is just the template, we haven't.
Right.
I was gonna say, we don't want to approve this.
No, it's
Okay.
just information right now, but,
I'll get through it in the next meeting. I'll
Yeah.
have a hard copy for this board to have reviewed. and-
Potentially adopt.
okay,
Yes.
great. Is there further discussion on this piece? Any public comment? I don't hear anything. So the next thing is the tree warden discussion.
Sorry, can I, before, it just occurred to me.
Back up.
So you mentioned that an audit occurred.
Yeah.
How did that go, Karen? Or do we know, or what's the process beyond somebody coming in and asking?
Well, no, so someone came in and asked for some information. I was in my office, so they just kind of, were looking around. Everything was closed, because of COVID anyway. And, it's labeled that, you stop here, we'll come out and, do business. But the comment was made that, well, everything's locked down around here. You can't get into any of the offices, and what's the big secret? It's like, but
Yeah,
we do allow people into our working space.
Mhm.
They have to have an appointment.
I was just gonna
Yes.
say, especially,
Right.
Yeah.
Because one, there's a lot of distraction. You have 4 people in that one area, and one person goes in there and, then, they're visiting or whatever. It just throws the whole, work space off. But again, it was COVID, so we were trying to protect everybody from that. And, we have nothing to hide. And we understand too, it is a public building and, people are allowed to come in and, depending on what their needs are.
but they also have to be respectful of our
Right.
policies and procedures
Right.
that exist.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And public spaces are allowed to have private spaces where the public is not regularly invited. So I think everything here is appropriately
as it,
labeled.
yeah,
Right.
But it was, it's good to have this kind
reminder,
of, it
yeah.
is, yeah. And, if you're caught unprepared as a town employee, it's, it can be stressful to be in that situation.
And VLCP had alerted us anyway through email, and Eileen and I have been talking about it too, so. But it is good to know and to be aware.
Yeah.
So.
and to think about the policies as, especially given the current circumstances, which are unusual, but even in normal times, how you do respond to that when it occurs.
Right.
Right.
But I would reiterate that we certainly aren't looking to hide anything.
No.
Everybody has every statutorily allowable access that they're entitled to.
Okay, so are we done with that conversation? I guess I
Yeah,
got short.
sorry.
Sorry about that,
Yeah,
okay.
no, that's okay. I just sort of clicked after that.
It's okay. So the next is the tree warden discussion.
Yes, so in your packet from VLCT is tree law information, and a town must have a tree warden. It's by statute, and the law has changed on what they have to be looking at and what they should be doing. We also can have a tree warden from out of town. It doesn't have to necessarily be somebody from town. So I reached out to our tree warden, but I have not heard back. And I'd like to open this up to the public and see if we can get any interest in appointing a tree warden or 2, because you can have deputy tree wardens as well. So with the emerald ash borer and shade trees and, I think it's worth trying to fill that with an active person or 2.
And our current appointee is Bill Harlow, who has been in that role for many years. Unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, he has been somewhat unable to fulfill that duty, probably to the degree that he would like to if he could.
Right.
But I think we also, historically, that has been a little bit of, it hasn't been a very active position, and I think it could and should be a more active position. Some of that is going to get brought on us by, we've certainly been through in the past, the last big occurrence of a tree die-off like this was probably Dutch elm disease, but which in the 70s really took a lot of effort on the part of towns to manage and a lot of financial support. But emerald ash borer is going to be not completely different, and we're probably going to continue to see as many or more of these types of events going forward. One example I brought up of, when the fire department was constructed, there was an agreement that there would be trees planted between the fire department and Route 5, and that never occurred. And that hasn't been brought up as a contentious point, but it is the kind of thing that a tree warden could help decide.
Right.
Okay.
I also think that we would probably be well served as a town to consider, well, one of the notable examples right now is the big maple tree in front of the library that's dying, or the two. But also being thoughtful about where we might want to plant trees for the future. And particularly, there's been a lot of attention being paid to the need to be exploring trees that, we are fortunate in that trees grow easily and readily here. But as the climate shifts, our maple trees are certainly suffering, and being thoughtful about having more diversity in the tree stock that we have, I think would be wise. And what that looks like even, on Main Street or anywhere that's in public areas, warrants giving some thought. And probably, and maybe ARPA would be a place to look for at least a little bit of money to be thoughtful about that.
For planning to.
For plantings.
Yeah, the library right now has like several trees over there that we really need to
Are
look at.
problematic.
Yeah.
And they become a liability for us.
They're trying to keep them alive, and
It's only going to go so far.
and they're big.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are big.
And we lost our locusts out here,
Yeah.
and it's like, so, some
Yeah, that one
shade
was actually
trees might be
see-through.
nice,
Yeah.
That was time.
But that other one's growing like,
Yeah.
that one shot right up.
Those grow fast.
Yeah, so I think it's important that we fill this position, and, maybe Mr. Harlow would want to be a deputy, tree warden. And
I don't know
pass
whether
his-
he's still interested or not.
You know.
I mean, I don't know.
So, but I'd like to advertise it and see what kind of interest we could get.
And I'm willing to participate in that on the select board, and that happens to be both an interest of mine and an educational. I have reasonable expertise in the realm of trees, so, and Eric certainly has some expertise in the realm of sugar bushes, so,
Okay.
but stuff we need to be thinking about. So.
We
I think Lionel has been part of
Right.
an assessment of.
I was not going to volunteer.
No, I'm just saying, unfortunately, I don't know whether that's, I don't think it's completed, but Lionel was involved with a group assessing the number of, and, it's gonna be a problem for us, and particularly, we would be better off, and again, this might be an ARPA topic, ash trees, taking them down while they're still at least mostly alive, as opposed to once they die, is a whole lot less expensive and a whole lot safer.
It's also a lot more useful. You can use the wood.
Exactly. You can use the wood or, the other thing that has been brought up from time to time, and I don't know whether we want to consider this, but it might be worth thinking about, is some sort of a public access to firewood. And particularly if we're going to be, I can't remember what Lionel came up with, but there are a few thousand, I think, at least ash trees. We're going to have a bunch of wood that we're going to be cutting down and removing. And, the highway department used to burn firewood, but they don't anymore. So, having some public access to a firewood program might be a nice thing to be
That
able
would
to
be a good
do.
idea, yeah.
Putney Cares
something to
might be
consider.
interested in that too, because I know folks that are still using wood.
And dependent, yeah.
They'll get cords of wood for
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
that need heat.
Yeah.
So that might be,
There are some towns that operate wood banks, aren't there?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And, it might be worth, and that, again, ARPA,
Yeah.
what do we need for a structure? What do we need to support something like that? I think would be worth exploring, so.
so yeah, tree warden could do that too.
Yeah.
Pull that together.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So we don't have to act on this, but you're gonna kind of put it out to the public
Yes.
that we'd like to
Yeah.
have more tree wardens.
Yeah, that is another one I'm gonna add to our list.
Okay,
So I did compile a list of vacancies,
yeah,
and Swift has it, Jamie Contois has it,
yeah.
and,
I wrote up a little
Yes.
a long 3-pager. It
right.
was supposed to be 1 page, it came out to 3.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
People really wanna know what these, vacancies are all about.
Right,
You can't just say they meet, the third Tuesday of every month.
right,
It's like-
to say what they're for,
Right,
yeah.
so,
Okay, I think we just segued into the next piece, which is the remaining appointments for committees and boards.
Yeah, it's not actually the remaining, because I should have had another list and I just didn't get to it. So in your packet tonight is the Wyndham Regional Representative for the
Okay.
town of Putney, Stephen Dotson. There is a vacancy, so it'd be nice to fill that. So,
And we need to make that appointment tonight?
yes.
Okay, we didn't,
I
that
thought
wasn't part of
I
our
thought he was part
round?
of the slate.
No, because I didn't have the form ready for
Oh,
you to
okay.
sign,
All right.
so,
Okay.
and
So,
Stephen did say he wanted to continue.
he's done it for 2 years?
At
now,
least
something
2,
like
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
at least a couple.
Yep,
All right, I will make a motion that we approve Stephen Dotson to be appointed to the Wyndham Regional Commission position.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Stephen Dotson to the Wyndham Regional Commission member for the town of Putney. Is there further discussion? Karen, is this, am I the only one that signs this?
yes.
Okay. I can do that. There's no other discussion. Public comment? Doesn't,
Does anybody want to step up for the vacancy?
going once, going twice.
Oh.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So there's a copy in
In
here.
here?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm afraid I can't do
That's
more
okay,
than
you
one
can
thing
do
at
it
once.
after.
I will do that later.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of stuff in there too.
So the second one is DV Fiber, which is our communication district, and Core Trowbridge is our town representative, and the alternate is Michael Maricki. They both agreed to serve again. These are 1-year terms, and the chair signs off on this as well.
So I'll make a motion that we appoint Core Trowbridge as the representative to DV Fiber, and Mike Rowicki as the alternative.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Court, how does this?
Trowbridge.
Trowbridge and Mike Murphy as member and alternate to the DV Fiber Control Board. Is that
Communication district.
Communication District.
Yeah.
Is there discussion? Public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, is that all of those, Karen?
Yeah, for tonight.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Is there any other business that we need to discuss? Anybody online have any other business? Select board? No other business. All right. We are having an executive session.
So I'll make a motion that we enter executive session under Title I V.S.A. 313A3, which is for the purpose of the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, provided that the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public official or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for its final decision during that open meeting.
A second.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session under Title V.S.A. 313A3. Karen, are we making any decision tonight?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so I guess that
And I
means
would just ask that we invite Karen to join us.
Really? Okay.
You don't have to.
someday I'll remember to invite you into the meeting.
It's okay.
Okay, so before we go into executive session, I'll just say that the next meeting date is April 6, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. We didn't make I didn't vote yet, did we? Is all in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, everybody.